When the new MacBook was first introduced in 2015, I was a little bit suspicious. But now, 3 years later, let's take a look at the original MacBook. Well, not the original, but like the first of like when they did it again. You know what I mean. Since Apple discontinued the white plastic MacBook, you had three options for Mac notebooks: the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro 13-inch, and the MacBook Pro 15-inch. As you who watch my channel regularly will know, I am heavily partial to the 15-inch MacBook Pro, but I do see the merits of the 13-inch MacBook Pro. On the other hand, I have an irrational hatred for the MacBook Air. I can't explain it. I just loathe its smugly thick bezels, its ridiculously outdated design, last updated more than 6 years ago, its low but still too high price. I absolutely detest the thing. And now that I've run out of synonyms for hate, let's look at what I thought was the MacBook Air of the future. The MacBook was supposed to be everything the MacBook Air isn't. A cheap Mac with a nice design, a small size, and the job is done. But no, as soon as Tim Cook showed that startling starting price of $1,300, I shoved the MacBook to the back of my mind. Who in their right mind would shell out that kind of cash for a low-powered, high-priced, modern netbook for Apple shills made of money and working out of a Starbucks where reputation and success is determined by which laptop you buy? Well, me, apparently. It's been 3 years since that day, and depreciation has taken its toll on the first-gen, second-gen MacBook. You can now pick these up for about $700, and that was enough to spark my interests. See, at $1,300, the MacBook is positioned as a high-end Ultrabook. And at that, it most certainly fails. For $1,300, I can pick up a very nicely spec'd Dell XPS 13 that's arguably more functional and certainly more powerful. However, at $700, the MacBook seems more comparable to an iPad Pro. And this is where the magic happens, at least for me. See, the MacBook is actually kind of similar to the iPad Pro. It's thin, it's fanless, it's light, and it has a 12-inch screen. But see, the iPad Pro starts at $799, and that only gets you 64 gigs of storage. My MacBook, which was only $700, has a ½ terabyte. To get that kind of storage in an iPad Pro, you'd be good for $1,150. Add to that I think the MacBook is just as portable as an iPad Pro with a keyboard attachment, if not more, due to its convenient clamshell design. Furthermore, as much as Apple has tried to pump up iPad functionality in iOS, I still don't see a comparison to full-fat macOS. The MacBook is objectively more functional than an iPad. See, while an iPad can do things that are optimized for an iPad, so iOS games or apps that are specifically made for it, the MacBook is more versatile in that it has an OS that things just work on. If I were typing a document or watching media content, I'd prefer to do it on a laptop than a tablet. Now, that may be partly due to me being a bit of an old-fashioned kind of guy, and I really prefer traditional laptops and desktops to funky tablets and two-in-ones. I never really got on that bandwagon. So for me, a full operating system just has more appeal. I'm sure there are a lot of people that will disagree with me and think the iPad is more functional, and really it depends on what you need it for. But if you're someone who's looking for a secondary device, but you don't really like the idea of a tablet, I think the MacBook is a pretty good option. In addition, the MacBook has a fairly long laundry list of firsts for Apple in terms of their new technologies and design. First of all, it has no fan. This is a completely silent, passively cooled MacBook. It is also the first to feature a butterfly keyboard, which is becoming standard across the MacBook lineup. The Force Touch trackpad was designed for this specific Mac. It's the first and still the only MacBook to feature tiered batteries for extra capacity. It's also the first MacBook to go all USB-C, if you like that. It's the first MacBook to ditch the plastic hinge cover and glowing plastic Apple logo in favor of an all-metal design. And it's also the first MacBook to come in space gray and gold. You know, pretty much anything other than silver. This MacBook is actually quite the little achievement from a technology perspective, and that huge list of firsts is very impressive whether you like it or not. This, I think, is one of the only truly innovative Apple products that's come out in recent years. And if you look past its low-powered internals and see the MacBook for what it is, a brilliantly designed Ultrabook, I think it's actually really useful and handy. I found it perfect for notes, for watching movies in bed or on the train, and I personally prefer the traditional laptop feel to tacky 2-in-1s and flip-around convertibles, or tablets with chintzy keyboard attachments. As I said, this does not suit everyone's needs. There are a lot of people that for $700 would rather get a gaming laptop or an iPad Pro or something along those lines. But that's the whole point of the technology world. There's options. At $1,300, I didn't personally see the MacBook as a viable option. It was just too expensive for what it is. But now that it's down in price to $700, I think this is a valuable option. If you're someone who is looking to buy an iPad but you don't really like the tablet experience, the MacBook is a great option. If you're someone who is looking to get work done, you need the thinnest, the lightest, and something that's not absurdly expensive but still nice in quality, the MacBook is a great option. I'm not saying that this is the best, but I am saying that it's worth considering, just not at its original sticker price.